Today, I will tell you the extraordinary story of a prisoner who, aside from being an exceptional car salesman, was also a high-ranking officer in the Air Force with specialized training in the anti-terrorist department. Despite his prestigious background, he attempted to escape from jail multiple times. However, his final escape method was so unique and bizarre that neither the guards nor the warden had any clue about it. He didn't dig a tunnel, nor did he harm any guard. After quietly escaping, he changed his disguise, eluding the police who could never catch him. Who was this prisoner? Why did he feel compelled to escape despite his distinguished career in the Air Force? Did the police ever catch him after his jailbreak? You will be surprised to learn that the mastermind behind this jailbreak was Richard Lee. Born on December 19, 1958, in southwest Oklahoma, Richard was the eldest of his 4 brothers. His father, James, was a police officer, which meant the family moved frequently until settling in Duncan, Stevens County after a permanent transfer. Richard's parents ensured their children received a good education and instilled a strong work ethic in them. This upbringing led Richard to work in various jobs, from construction to radio announcing. Richard developed a knack for learning new skills quickly. However, he soon realized these jobs didn't pay well, so he turned to selling cars. At 19, he moved to Edmond and enrolled in Central State University to study criminal justice. But within 6 months, he dropped out and returned to selling cars. At 21, Richard's parents arranged his marriage to a woman named Darty, but the marriage lasted only a year and a half. Richard didn't want children, leading to their separation. This breakup triggered a change in Richard, sparking an interest in criminal activities and weapons. He began carrying a gun and was once jailed for stealing and burning a car. Determined to turn his life around, Richard decided to join the Air Force, where he received military police and anti-terrorist training. This training later proved invaluable when he re-entered the world of crime and executed his daring jailbreak. After his training, Richard was posted in the city of Minot, North Dakota. He performed his duties well, but he developed a bad habit. He became addicted to alcohol. When he realized that drinking was ruining his health, quit. This change allowed him to excel in his undercover operations, earning him numerous medals and promotions. However, this success was short-lived, and Richard himself was the cause of his downfall. In 1987, during a party, Richard got into a fight, resulting in a severe injury to his left hand. This incident marked the beginning of the end of his military career. Since the altercation involved another soldier from his battalion, the Air Force suspended him and initiated an investigation. During this inquiry, the team discovered stolen goods in Richard's possession, taken from the military camp. As a result, his military career was tainted. All his medals were revoked, and he was demoted from a high-ranking officer to a clerk. This demotion had a devastating impact on Richard. He began committing petty thefts at shops, not for money, but for the thrill. He didn't sell the stolen items. Instead, he hid them in one place. These thefts were merely a source of amusement for him, until one day, a robbery changed his life forever. On the afternoon of November 17, 1987, Richard entered the Farmer Union Elevator Company office to steal. This office housed seeds and chemicals used in farming. While opening the safe, Richard felt the need to use the restroom. Upon returning, he noticed a small truck parked outside with 2 men inside, 47-year-old Jerry Thace and 31-year-old Dick Kissman. They were unaware of what was happening or what was about to unfold. By the time Richard picked up his bag and headed towards the door, Dick had gone upstairs inside the office. Sensing something was wrong, Dick noticed that the security gate, which should have been closed, was open, and a bag, Richard's, was near it. As soon as Dick opened the office door and switched on the lights, Richard shot at him. Though Richard missed his target, the bullet grazed Dick's ear and shattered the glass window beside him. Due to the sudden attack and the bullet grazing his ear, Dick fell to the ground, screaming in pain. Richard then stood over him and fired 4 more bullets, but remarkably, only one hit its mark. Dick, now bleeding, pretended to be dead, and Richard believed him. Thinking Jerry had fled in fear, Richard left the office. However, Richard's assumption was wrong. As soon as Richard stepped outside, Jerry, who had been calling 911, was still there. While Jerry was on the phone with the police, he heard gunshots. Turning around, he saw Richard sitting in his truck, 15 feet away, firing at him. Before Jerry could react, a bullet struck him in the chest, killing him instantly. Later that night, Richard went to his girlfriend's house. Shockingly, his girlfriend worked as a nurse at the same hospital where the injured Dick had been admitted. The police immediately launched a manhunt for the shooter, suspecting he was the same person responsible for a string of recent thefts. Despite their efforts, it took 3 months before they caught a break. Police discovered a place where Richard had been stashing his stolen goods. Richard had rented a secluded spot to hide his loot, but he never anticipated it would lead to his arrest. Among the stolen items, the police found goods from the Air Force Base and a photograph of Richard. This evidence led to Richard's first arrest on February 16, 1988. To avoid tipping him off, the police lured Richard to the station under the pretense of needing his help for an undercover operation. During questioning, they grew convinced Richard was hiding something and arrested. They handcuffed him and left him alone in a room, with only 2 officers remaining in the station. Seizing the opportunity, Richard used a lip balm from his pocket as grease to slip his hands out of the handcuff. While escaping from the police station, Richard grabbed one of the police jackets hanging nearby. Luck was on his side as he found car keys in the jacket pocket. He sprinted to the police station parking lot, where the keys fit the 3rd car he tried. He drove away but soon had to stop because the car ran out of gas. Abandoning the car, Richard ran towards a nearby building, where a patrolling police officer spotted him. The officer gave chase. To evade capture, Richard jumped out of a 2nd-floor window, aiming for a nearby tree to break his fall. Unfortunately, he missed the tree and hit the ground hard, allowing the police to arrest him again. Injured from the fall, Richard was taken to a hospital for treatment. After his discharge from the hospital, Richard was sent to Ward County Jail. A few months later, his trial began, resulting in a 35-year sentence for the murder of Jerry Theitz, the attempted murder of Dick Kissman, and several burglaries. On the morning of July 22, 1988, Richard was transferred to the North Dakota State Penitentiary to serve his sentence. Upon arrival, he was isolated from other prisoners due to the belief that he might attempt another escape or harm someone, given his history of violence and jailbreak. Despite his reputation, Richard gained respect among inmates and guards alike, partly because he had killed a police officer and had the audacity to escape custody. He also started writing articles about prison life for a newspaper, which earned him a positive image within the prison. It seemed Richard was on the path to reform, but unbeknownst to everyone, he was planning one of the most audacious prison breaks in American history. He knew that, unlike other prisoners who might get out on parole, his chances were slim due to his crimes. Determined to escape, Richard began devising his plan. Richard began planning his escape and enlisted another prisoner, Randall Heisch, who was serving a life sentence. They met in the prison workshop where they, along with other prisoners, made road signs, furniture, and dustbin. They knew of a large exhaust pipe running through the prison that led outside, which seemed like the perfect escape route. According to their plan, Randall would keep watch near the prison gate, while Richard cut through the exhaust pipe's security hardware. They stole a cutter from the maintenance room, but it wasn't powerful enough. They decided to steal a plasma cutter instead. They planned to escape on a Monday morning, but Richard made a critical mistake. They included another prisoner in their plan, and word of their escape attempt spread throughout the prison, leading to their capture. As a result, Richard and Randall were placed in separate cells and had their sentences extended. Despite this setback, Richard's resolve to escape only grew stronger. While confined to his cell, he continued writing articles about prison life for a newspaper. He had to take photos of various prison buildings, and during this time, the new education department building was under construction. While photographing this new building, Richard noticed a significant gap between the roof and the ceiling, meant for installing an AC unit. He realized that if he could access this gap, he might find a way to escape. Determined to succeed this time, Richard and Randall decided not to include a third person in their plan to avoid repeating their previous mistake. However, the night before the escape, they included another prisoner named Rec Holland. Rec had a military background and could be valuable once they were outside the prison. Randall's task was to find a way to enter the gap between the roof and the ceiling, which would be their escape route. Within just 2 days, Randall discovered the entrance to the ceiling, which was concealed by an AC duct. By removing the mesh, they could easily access it. The new education department building also had an entertainment room with a TV and VCR, where prisoners could watch movies. The AC duct opened into this room, providing a perfect entry point into the ceiling. biggest challenge was figuring out how to enter the ceiling without being noticed by other prisoners. Randall had a clever idea. On the night of the jailbreak, October 9, 1992, Richard, Randall, and Holland went to the entertainment room and played a movie that the prisoners had already seen twice. As expected, no one was interested in watching the movie for the third time. 34 prisoners entered the room, but left when they saw Richard and his companions watching the movie. When they were sure no one else would come, they locked the door from the inside, removed the mesh from the AC duct, and climbed into the ceiling one by one. Crawling through the ceiling, they emerged in a section of the prison known as the kill zone, where any unauthorized prisoner would be shot on sight. As they made their way towards the prison fence, a guard approached and questioned them. Realizing they were caught, the three men ran towards the fence and climbed over it. They decided to split up to avoid capture. The guards and police quickly pursued them. Holland was the first to be caught, as he injured his leg and couldn't run far. Randall was the second, caught with the help of the police. However, Richard managed to steal a car and drive away, evading capture. Richard drove to the U.S. Mail Service warehouse, where mailboxes were checked and loaded onto forklifts. Once inside the warehouse, Richard had successfully escaped from the prison and reached a new hiding place. The most critical task for Richard was to get out of the mailbox without being noticed by the warehouse workers and to escape. His chance came when the lunch siren rang, signaling the workers' break. As the warehouse emptied, with only one guard at the front gate and no one at the back, Richard seized the opportunity. He unlatched the mailbox and slipped out, finally breathing the open air. He had made history as the first prisoner to escape from Florence prison by breaking out of the oil tank. Despite his successful escape, the cat-and-mouse game with the authorities had just begun. Richard stole a car and headed for Louisiana. After driving for a few hours, a policeman named Carl Broadland stopped his car. When asked his name, Richard claimed to be Robert Jonas. He calmly inquired why the officer was there, to which Carl replied that there was no specific reason. Carl then asked for Richard's address, and Richard said he was in the area for construction work, staying at a nearby hotel called Titus Inn. Throughout the interrogation, Richard remained calm, answering every question without a hint of nervousness, ensuring that the police didn't suspect him. Carl, unaware he was dealing with a murderer and escaped prisoner, eventually let Richard go. Richard crossed the American-Canada border into British Columbia. However, while driving there, the police stopped his car again, as they were investigating a stolen vehicle. Richard, once more, answered their questions calmly and convincingly. The police, unaware they were dealing with an escaped convict, let him go again. After spending some time in British Columbia, Richard returned to America to meet his family. Satisfied with his brief reunion, he went back to the Canadian city of Vancouver. Many months had passed since Richard's escape from jail. By 2007, his wanted posters were displayed everywhere from America to Canada, making it increasingly difficult for him to hide from the police. Richard understood that staying in one place would lead to his capture, so he resorted to stealing cash and cars to keep changing his location. The continuous car thefts led to numerous complaints to the police, ultimately resulting in Richard's arrest. On the afternoon of October 24, 2007, policemen patrolling on his bike spotted a white van. After checking the number plate against a list of stolen vehicles, found a match. Policemen immediately stopped the van, and to his surprise, Richard was sitting inside. During the interrogation, the policemen discovered two critical pieces of information. The van was stolen, and Richard was an escaped prisoner with wanted posters plastered everywhere. Policemen arrested Richard and took him into custody. Richard was initially sent to Atlantic Jail in Canada. After a few days, he was extradited to America, where he was sent to Supermax prison. Supermax is notorious for housing some of the world's most dangerous criminals, including El Chapo. Its reputation as an impenetrable fortress rivaled that of Alcatraz, making it nearly impossible for any prisoner to escape. This was the story of Richard, the prisoner who escaped from jail not once but 3 times, earning infamy throughout America and Canada. Despite his daring escapes and notorious reputation, he now spends the rest of his life in a 12-by-9 cell, a stark reminder of his turbulent past.